Welcome back, everybody, to Average Nerds and Spec Mass Entertainment. This is episode 4, and we're going to be talking about episode 6 of a handful of shows, 3 and 4 of another, 7 and 8 of one of them.
All over the place.
Just the next episode of all the currently airing shows and like a couple more of some others.
Sure, that sounds great.
I couldn't think of a fun intro for this one.
No.
But that's okay.
That's normally my job.
Yeah.
Numely.
Speaking of your job,
yeah,
you said you had some anime related news that you wanted to bring up.
I wouldn't necessarily call it anime related news. It kind of is.
Well, hold up.
Hold up.
The acronym under which our podcast falls or whatever is A.N.I.M.E.
Right.
Even though it's about mass entertainment, we're talking about some Japanese shit.
Okay. Well, the word anime is in the title.
Yeah. Oh, of the news that you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it? Lay it on me.
Have you seen Anime Crimes Division?
I don't know what that is.
There's a YouTube show that's being done by Rocket Jump, the creators of Video Game High School and a ton of other web shorts you've seen, and Crunchyroll, to create the Anime Crimes Division. And the first episode deals with a street war between the subbers and the dubbers.
So this is something that you've seen?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on YouTube.
I gotta tell you, man, anything like produced by Crunchyroll or anything having to do with Crunchyroll, makes me like cringe, and I just don't care about it. I just can't deal with it.
Okay.
I will watch the first episode and report back.
All right. Cool. It's 9 minutes.
Okay. I think I can.
I think it's 8 minutes because there's a lot of credits.
Okay. I think I can deal with that.
Cool.
Especially because Rocket Jump is involved, because I think I like their kind of indie vibe that they have.
Yeah.
Like their production looks really good. All their CG is nice and seamless, but they kind of have a nerdy
that's how they started
thing going on. I did watch like all of Video Game High School at your behest.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy the first season when it was Hogwarts with video games.
Yep.
And of course, the Law is the greatest character of our time.
That he is. Thank you, Brian Ferenzi.
Okay. With that out of the way, I think we can go ahead and start talking about some anime.
Sounds like a great idea. I'm holding a mug, so let's start with Eva then.
Right, because this was the episode where the infamous Shinji holding a mug, glaring disapprovingly at Misato meme is from. So we did episodes 7 and 8 of Eva.
Right.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you watched all of this today, so it's fresh in your memory?
Uh-huh.
All right. Any thoughts? Anything stick out?
Did anything stick out? I really liked both episodes. I thought episode 7, where you really get a look more at Misato and how she has this complete difference between how she acts around people she's comfortable with and how she acts around like the general populace or when she's at work.
Right. Home versus work.
Yeah. Right. So you got a little more of a glimpse into her as a character, as well as you learned some shady stuff that N.E.M.E's doing.
Yeah.
Sabotaging the other company's attempt at an Eva.
Yeah. Well, no, not an Eva, because an Eva is like it's a cyborg, it's like half human, half machine or whatever.
Right.
And it's biological as well as technological.
Well, their attempt at a giant fighty robot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. There you get into some of the politics of Eva a little bit. I really like that scene where the guy from the SSDF.
He's trying to get the authorization to get the code, and he's got to call like 9 people, and there's a guy on a golf course. He's like, well, you faxed me the request, and we don't have time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that speaks very true to bureaucracy.
Yeah, I think the whole point of that scene is communicating, Anno's displeasure with bureaucracy and with governmental red tape, with people trying to pass the buck and evade responsibility. Because that's what Misato says is evading responsibility. When she when she hears the phone call that's going on, the multiple phone calls this guy's having to make.
Yep.
But she does manage to save it in the end.
No, she doesn't.
She manages to stop the robot.
She doesn't stop it.
Oh, right.
She puts in the code, it doesn't do anything.
Right.
Nerve sends the override code that they've rewritten inside their robot, inside the other people's robot, at the absolute last second.
Yeah, but to
make it seem like they had failed.
It looks like
saves the day. It looks like it, but you know she doesn't. She's trying to push out one control rod into the reactor out of like 20.
When I first,
and they all go, and it's like, wow.
Well, when I first saw that, you know how like disk drives, if you push a disk drive a little bit, it does the rest of the work for you and slides in.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I was like, okay, so these are just like disk drives. If you push them a little bit, if you get them started, they just go the rest of the way.
Yeah, no, that's not how control rods and nuclear reactors work.
Like you would know.
I built a nuclear reactor in Minecraft once. Does that count?
That does not count.
I had to build control rods and a temperature regulate. Anyways, control rods regulate temperature, and the fact that all of them were out, it would have just blown up.
Yeah.
Gets too hot.
It was close to blowing up. We got all those little hexagons turning from green to red.
Although nuclear reactors don't actually explode, they kind of melt and then radiation leaks. That's it.
What about Chernobyl? Was there no explosion
when
Chernobyl melted down?
But it got so hot it melted a section of Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And the intense amount of radiation just decimated everything around it.
So would that not have taken the form of an explosion?
No explosion.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Gendo is pulling the strings. And Ritsuko is in on it. The female doctor,
scientist.
The blonde. Yeah. She's in on it. So she knows more than Katsuragi. It's Misato's name.
Right.
So she's kind of like witnessing that like disparity of knowledge or information or whatever, and plus this being a very Misato heavy episode, you're kind of like on her side. You're relating more to her because she knows less, which is about as much as we know.
Right.
So yeah, Gendo getting more menacing, more like kind of farther away from the audience. Misato being moved closer to our perspective.
Right.
And
also, at the same time, it's not just, he's further or closer to our perspective, but Shinji's as well.
Right.
Misato growing closer once somebody has to explain to him.
Yeah.
It's like you see a side of her that she's not willing to show to anybody else because you're family to her.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, duh.
Yeah, but it's nice that's something it's nice that like comparison can be drawn or whatever, that someone could make him feel better by pointing that out to him and that he accepts that as truth. But we're going to learn more about Misato. Like we haven't pulled back all the layers. And I don't think I agree that she sees Shinji as family, because in this very episode, or maybe it's in episode 8, I don't know. She mentions to him that there's going to be a parent-teacher conference.
Right, and she's going.
Yeah, but she phrases it as though it's like an obligation.
Yeah.
And he is kind of like visibly...
She's like, it's part of my job.
Yeah, and he's like not happy with the way that she words it.
Oh.
Yeah, so and as soon as he leaves, she's like, okay, it's your responsibility to guard him now. She's on the phone with somebody saying, okay, I'm handing him off to you. So it's not as though she sees him as a son.
No.
And she's obviously not a mother figure. Not a very good one anyway.
I mean, that's
just got beer cans all over the house, and she's walking around half naked.
Yeah, she's like me.
Okay. I didn't need to know that you walk around your house half naked. Right. She makes a lot of money, at least, I assume.
I would hope so.
All right, episode 8 is the appearance of the third child.
I don't remember her name. I know she's German.
She is. Asuka.
Yeah.
Is her name. Yeah. You'll remember her name. Because obviously at the end of the episode you see she has joined their class.
Right.
So now the 3 Eva pilots are all in the same class. And she's, going to keep popping up. She's not going away.
We've had one episode based on Rei in 8 episodes.
Yeah, I guess she had one spotlight episode.
Right. And then we got one for the third child already.
Yeah.
And we know, I'm not sure if it's from this episode or from episode 7, but up to Eva 08, are being built.
Yes, it's from episode 7 where Gendo has the conversation on the plane with somebody from another country heading up some other. I don't know, dude. A lot of the corporate stuff and the political stuff kind of goes in one of my ears and out the other.
It's the last country that they need in order to sign off to the UN's budget in order to be able to build Ava 08 is the United States.
Right, but that's not the country that the other member of that conversation.
It's probably talking to Germany then, because that's where Ava 02 and the girl are from.
Yeah, but those are separate episodes. They have the conversation in episode 7. Episode 8 is Asuka's episode.
Right, but it's possible he was talking about, because they have to come over. It's a long distance.
I mean, maybe that guy was from Germany.
Germany to Japan is halfway around the world. Especially on a ship. Ships aren't very fast.
That's true. But we were talking about a conversation that happened on a plane.
Right.
We kind of digressed. I forgot what we were talking about.
I can't remember either.
Okay.
Oh, no, I was saying how...
Yeah, there's 8 Avas.
Right.
Yes.
There's going to be 8, but they only have at most 4 pilots right now.
What do you mean at most 4?
Because
did they find the 4th? What do you mean?
No, because they know that they're looking for the 4th child, but they don't have like a lead on 5, 6, 7, or 8.
Okay, so they're looking for the 4th child. Did we not get a bit of like a line of dialogue saying that the 4th child had been found? We shouldn't have, because I don't
think so.
I know who the 4th child is.
We got we did get at the very end of the episode like a case. The guy who's on the aircraft carrier, who I can't remember his name, Kaji, that Misato knew, had like this case that had like a bunch of warning labels and stuff all over it.
Right.
And inside of it looked like a human embryo.
Yes.
And that it was supposed to be the first human. It was supposed to be Adam.
Yeah. Not only, well, is it the first human or the first angel?
I think it's I'm not certain.
Oh, it is the first human.
Yeah, it's the first human. It was because he said Adam. I don't think they would have named the first angel Adam. They would have named it Destroyer of Worlds.
Well, I think they all have names.
The angels?
I don't think they named them.
What did they name the 5th one? Cubroid?
They would name the 4th one Cubroid, because cube is, well, I guess a cube has 6 sides.
So pyramids.
Oh, you're talking
Pyramid-san.
You're talking about
That was Angel 5.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of that little cube. The diamond shaped.
They didn't name it, did they?
No, they all have names. And that's like the big joke in the Ava fandom, I guess, is that everyone, like, people argue about who's the best girl, as anime fans do about their cartoons. Yeah, they people argue about who's like the best girl, Rei or Asuka. But the joke, or the meme, if you will, is that angel, the diamond
Pyramid-san,
is the best girl.
Is best girl.
And I can't remember what it's
I don't know either.
Name. Anyways,
it's not important.
Yeah. So Kaji, we met him as well, and he's apparently like Asuka's guardian.
Yeah.
In the same way that Misato is Shinji's. Like, he is kind of supervising her and looking out for her. But he has other responsibilities as well.
Right.
Obviously. Yeah. Because
he's like, yo, peace.
He's in league with Gendo. And he was the one who delivered the suitcase to him, the package or whatever. And they do mention that the first human, that Adam, is integral to the Human Instrumentality Project.
Right.
So there's that, like, code name or whatever resurfacing, which the first time we heard it was in that meeting with Seal.
Yeah, episode 2.
Yeah.
I think it was.
All the guys illuminated the different colors in the boardroom.
Right.
Kind of giving...
teleconference or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think... I mean, I don't know where this goes, obviously, because I haven't seen it before. But I think it's... with them finding the first human, they want to be able to, like, map the human genome. Kind of like we, as in 2017 world, did recently.
Yeah, the real world, humans in the real world.
And they want to be able to recreate whatever creates, like, the first, second, third, fourth child.
Okay.
So they can, combat the angels.
Okay, I get you. So they want to be able to create ideal pilots of Avas or whatever?
Yeah, that's my guess.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, that your theory would be supported by the fact that Adam is in the form of an embryo. But Kaji does mention it's managed to restructure itself this much, so it's growing.
Right.
It's even though it's like suspended in that
gel or plasma or whatever.
Yeah.
Probably the fluid from the entry plug.
Yeah. Oh, there was a detail in these episodes about Shinji thinking to himself that the entry plug smells like blood.
Yeah.
What did you make of that? Do you think that's how LCL smells? Or that's the orange liquid that fills it up that you can breathe?
I think it's just by the fact that it has to go through whatever the biological layer of the Eva is.
Okay. So you think there's like blood or something similar moving through the Eva?
Absolutely. We see it bleed in the first or second episode.
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't exactly remember that. Oh yeah, wait, yes I do. Of course I do. It it sprays blood everywhere when it gets.
Yeah. We see it bleed.
Yeah.
So the entry plug is like basically a hole in it, and if there was a hole in us, it would, that wound wouldn't heal terribly well. Yeah. So it would smell like blood when you opened the metal hatch that released it.
I see. Okay.
That's a guess, though.
Yeah. He says it smells like blood, but he feels like strangely secure there.
Right. And then we have the first two pilots.
What do you mean the first two pilots?
There are two pilots in the same Eva.
Oh yeah, the first time we see two pilots in the same
entry plug.
Entry plug cockpit or whatever. And they both managed to set like personal records for their sync ratio.
Right.
Ritsuko says, "Oh, that's probably just because they were in danger."
Right.
But that may not be the whole story. There may be something to the idea of two people working together.
Well, and this has absolutely nothing to do with it, but in I love sidetracks in Pacific Rim, which
you have probably guessed by now is really influenced by Evangelion.
Guillermo del Toro. By the way, there's going to be a second one. I'm hyped. You needed two pilots in order to do it because the strain was too much for one pilot alone.
Right, so they have to sync with each other.
Left brain, right brain, and they have to be compatible and sync properly.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been a long time since I saw that movie.
It's really good.
I don't think I was that impressed by it.
It's a huge CG slugfest with a little bit of story. You know?
The story, the characters were kind of minimally
developed.
Human, I think. They represented ideas more than people.
Well, the director said very much that he was influenced by Japanese television and movies and stuff like that.
Kaiju stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's Japanese for monster.
It is.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so there's going to be a second Pacific Rim. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's coming out early next year.
Oh, dude, if only 4.44 would come out by then. That's the Evangelion movie that everyone's waiting on. They're still making movies in like a separate continuity.
Okay.
But I don't know if we'll get around to watching those. I do hope that you'll watch End of Evangelion, though, which is the movie that is meant to follow up the TV show. It's in the same continuity.
Okay.
And it's quite something. All right. New show. We did an old one. Let's do a new one.
Okay. Let's do everybody's favorite robot, Inuyashiki.
Right. Is he? I think my favorite robot is probably Eva 01. I mean,
my favorite robot is Megas XLR from an old Cartoon Network series that's impossible to find.
Just Google it.
No, I have looked for so long and I can't find it.
I'll help you find it right after we stop recording.
Okay. Either way,
my Google Foo is pretty good.
I love that. I love that show.
We're doing Inuyashiki.
Yeah, we're doing Inuyashiki, everyone's favorite robot. Or what is it called? Last Hero Inuyashiki is the full title.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that sounds about right. So this was episode 6 of Inuyashiki.
Yep.
And episode 7 just showed up on Horrible Subs.
Yeah, so we're only one behind.
Right. So we're mostly caught up to the seasonal stuff, although I don't know when this episode that y'all are hearing right now will be uploaded. Anyways, what happens in this one? The cliffhanger of the last one was that Hiro is being surrounded by the dudes.
He's being arrested because somebody turned him in. He's not sure who. I'm sure he can figure it out.
Well, in the last episode of this podcast, you said that there was a news broadcast. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I was doing a little looking online.
No, there was security camera footage. True.
Okay. I still don't remember that, but that's fine.
I'll show you afterwards. Anyways.
Right. So he ends up staying with that girl who
likes him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was like...
And whose grandmother never uses a TV.
Right.
So she'll have no idea what's going on.
Right. And he was hiding out, like laying low and not, killing anyone or anything. Because he said in the last episode, I'm not going to kill anybody anymore.
Yep.
But that seemed to be a result, like his decision was motivated by his mom.
Right.
Who is now dead.
Right. Whose mom who committed suicide when she's like, I can't believe my son did this.
Right. Well, before that, though, she shows up on a news conference or the news or whatever.
Right.
And says, I'm terribly sorry. He's done something no human being should ever do.
Right.
So he's obviously like kind of stunned by that. And then, she
kills herself.
She kills herself.
Yeah.
Not as a result of the stuff that people are saying online about her, I think. It was probably just the same grief and the same guilt that she was feeling all along that caused her to...
Right, because she said in the previous episode, she's like, what if I was the killer? And it's like, well, then I would go to hell with you.
Right.
So she, essentially did what could be constrained as the honorable thing and killed herself.
Construed,
whatever. I'm bad with words.
Good thing you're a podcast host then.
Right?
So he does kill, though. He goes back on his word, on his promise or whatever.
But in a much more dramatic way than before.
Yeah. Because in a much more nonsensical way. How is he killing people?
That's what I wanted to hit on, really, is that, when the aliens rebuilt them, they're like, this technology could destroy the world.
Right.
Like
it'll destroy their planet.
Those two robots could destroy that entire planet. And so I think he's starting to realize that his powers are much more than line of sight. He can do anything from pretty much any distance.
Well, they may not be line of sight, but I think they are based on him being able to see people, right? Because he has that. We don't know for sure that he's accessing the guy's webcam or whatever, but I think we're meant to infer that because he shows up on the troll's computer screen or whatever. So we're led to believe that he's looking at the guy through his camera.
Right.
So in all instances so far where he's killed somebody, I think he's been looking at them. Yeah, he's been looking at them. Even if now we know that proximity is not a requirement.
Right.
So
and considering he has access to every piece of technology that's ever existed, he can just pull up a security camera feed from anywhere and just kill people.
But would it have to be live? Or is this like a Death Note thing where he just needs to know somebody's name, or in this case their face?
I think it's just location.
He just has to know where they are?
Yeah.
How would he know where the hacker dude is if... Oh, I guess he would access his computer or whatever to find out. Yeah, because that's how he finds him in the first place, is he goes on...
2chan.
Well, that's the thing. That I'm an image board user, I guess, and the title of the episode is... What is it? I don't know. But when it was, Romanized or whatever...
They mentioned 2chan.
They put 2chan in the title of the episode, but it's not 2chan, it's 2channel. They're completely different. 2channel or 2ch is the original Japanese image board that spawned 2chan. So that was a spin-off from 2channel. And then 4chan came from 2chan.
Right, which is the US version.
Yeah. So it wasn't, and you could even tell from like the layout of when he was looking at the computer screen and stuff to see their posts. No, that it was 2channel. It wasn't 2chan.
I mean, channel. Fuck!
I just had to throw that in there, in this podcast.
Gotta drop some knowledge.
Yeah. Anyway, we can call it 2chan. That's fine.
Just
so he goes on 2chan.
No.
And he sees all the hateful things that people are saying.
And how it's like, lol,
she should kill herself.
I gave up this person's name,
right?
And I found them and sent it to the media,
right?
And systematically kills all of them.
Yeah, and then there was that montage of him killing all the 2channel users. Like, I don't know. I read some comments online about like people's reactions to the episode, because obviously they're going for the shock factor. Like they're trying to make you feel a certain way, and a lot of people were like, man, it feels so good to watch all these internet trolls die. That was a lot of people like had that reaction. Oh my gosh.
Easy there.
Who thinks that way, first of all? And second of all, like, it was such a clumsy portrayal of people who use anonymous image boards
be careful with your white knighting here.
Who am I white knighting?
People on image boards.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Like, I'm trying to make them out to be saints or whatever. But I would argue that I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to make them out to be normal people who sometimes...
But they're not normies.
Who sometimes use that shroud of anonymity to say, like, spiteful, even terrible stuff. So obviously the guy who he found who turned in his mom is bad. He's a bad guy because he was, from his dialogue, we can infer that he was like kind of hoping for this outcome. But then the whole montage where he's killing all of them, and they're all like kind of taunting him or being like, "Oh, I'm really sorry," or whatever.
Yeah.
Just I don't buy into the idea that people who are anonymous online are all like that.
Well, one phrase that I've always used that I've found that holds true is that anonymity breeds animosity.
Okay.
If you are free or more free from repercussions for your words, your more words/actions, you are more likely to do things that you would never do face to face.
Yeah, that's true. Things that you would never do, like say something mean, or say something honest, or do something bad, or do something good.
Right.
It's just different. It's different than, living in 2017
but on an
when
image
you have
board,
a Facebook and a Twitter, and your face is everywhere and your name is everywhere.
You go on an image board and you're not going to find the most welcoming people ever, are you?
No, you won't. And I think that's by design, because image boards are my guess is that they're slowly dying. They're getting eaten by social media, like everything else. And so the people who are left in those corners of the internet are trying to preserve like the way they once were by being unwelcoming to new people, like from new
fags.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to use that term, but yes, essentially.
That's how they refer.
Yeah. I mean, I've used that term before. I can't deny it. Let's see. I have written here, we didn't talk about Inuyashiki at all. So in the couple minutes we have
nothing really happens to him. We find out he's like, hey, there's a USB plug under your fingernail.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, this hyper advanced alien race is still using a universal serial bus.
Yeah, dude. It does. Well, I don't know what that means exactly, but I get your drift.
USB ports are old, and their technology would be light years beyond that. He wouldn't have a USB port.
Right. That's serial bus, universal serial bus.
That's what it stands for.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did want to touch on that because I think last episode you mentioned like you really wanted to see him go through a training montage or a training arc or something.
Right.
So this contributes to that. And then he flies up into outer space.
He's like, somebody saw me. Who? I think it's a spaceman.
I think it'd be really interesting if they explored like the ramifications of him being seen by that astronaut. Like if the astronaut
alien life.
Yeah, if he relays back down to like mission control in Houston or whatever. Hey, I saw an old man with rocket thrusters.
There's a camera on the side of every single spacesuit that's always recording. Because that looked like the International Space Station. Because that's the only space station that's in orbit.
Okay.
So
I think that'd be really cool.
Highly likely that he was recorded.
I hope the show goes there.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what's going on with the whole. So on one hand, you've got USB ports on these hyper advanced robots from like that are products of alien technology, and on the other hand, you have people who are able to kill somehow using invisible weapons. There are no bullets.
No. Essentially, and science fiction theory, but essentially it's just incredibly. It changes the density of the air and then accelerates it. An incredibly high speed, because a high enough air pressure will cut through anything. So essentially that's what I think is happening, is it's manipulating air in order to do that.
Maybe. I was wondering if it was based on light, like if it was some sort of laser that we can't see. But then we saw
there wouldn't be those explosions. Everything would be cauterized like a lightsaber. You know, lightsaber cuts through somebody, nobody bleeds. It's just like seared flesh.
Right.
It's because it's hot. Because it's light.
Yeah, but we can't expect that they're going to follow the laws of physics down to the letter.
They're not following the laws of physics because people are dying with absolutely no explanation and no distortion in the air.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I mean, well, it is alien technology, so we just
that's true.
We don't know enough. All right, let's do another one. We're trying to keep this podcast shorter than the last one. Last one was 100 minutes. We're trying to keep this one down to like 75 or something.
There was one other thing, real brief, I wanted to touch on.
All right, you have 60 seconds.
Okay. It was when he found out his mom had died, and he runs outside and he flies away and he's crying. That was the worst animation I've ever seen.
Yeah.
His face was just.
Yeah, it's bad.
It was
obviously a product of the CG, but you know, it's whatever.
The new Pixar movie came out, and you can see good CG right there.
Yeah, but that's like hundreds of millions of dollars being dumped into Pixar films versus whatever shoestring budget this is being done on.
That's true.
Anime is really cheaply made. That's like how it got to be where it is today. That's been the blueprint for like 50 years or something.
Huh. Okay, so let's do an older one.
Right. How about Hellsing?
Sure, let's do Hellsing.
What happened this episode, and how'd you feel about it?
Man, a lot of dialogue, which isn't bad. You know, the plot has to be explained at some point in a show that's all about fighting and guns and blood.
Right. So there was a lot of dialogue. What else?
God, the part that I wanted to touch on that was just like, why is this happening? Is the leader of the last battalion who's just elaborating for, and I'm not exaggerating, 6 minutes on types of war that he likes and like how soldiers die and stuff. I'm like, this could have been 10 seconds, but no.
That was
6 minutes.
I think that was actually my favorite part of the episode, dude.
Like
I thought it was really interesting how he went on and on for so long, and he got like more and more megalomaniacal.
So more and more in a good way or in a bad way?
I was entertained by it. I was like, I thought it was an interesting decision to have him talk about it for so long.
I thought
have his crowd of like 100. I assume that they were all vampires.
Yeah.
In his audience.
1,000 vampires.
Yeah. Even though they didn't look like it at all, they were all dressed up in military outfits.
Yeah, they're all dressed up in SS uniforms.
And they were like completely spellbound, and they were like worshiping him, and doing the whatever that sign is.
Sieg Heil.
Yeah, sure. I was falling asleep at the very end watching this episode because I was watching it late at night. I was trying to get all the stuff for watch before this episode of the podcast.
Right.
But like that part woke me up.
Really?
Yeah, I was interested by it.
I find that interesting that we had such polar opposite reactions to it.
Yeah.
I was kind of just like, okay, we get it. Yeah, you like war, cool.
Well,
great.
I think maybe one of the reasons I was so into it was because it was establishing a motivation for the Nazi guy beyond white supremacy.
Right. It was just...
he's like the Joker in Batman. He's just a force of chaos.
Chaotic evil.
Who really just wants to go back to the glory days of when people were killing each other on a worldwide scale. Like his words, not mine. Right. I don't think those were the glory days.
The good old days. Where you could put people in boxcars and never see them again.
Okay.
The, death camps, World War II, a lot of trains.
Put people in boxcars?
Yeah, they put, like, when they were rounding people up to send them to concentration camps.
Oh, okay.
They used trains for a lot of them.
I'm not that good a student of history, I guess. I was just looking for, like, gas chambers or something more direct.
Yeah, the trains is how they got them there. Anyways.
Okay. What else about the episode? So you obviously did not like the ending, and I was more in favor of it. I think that was my favorite part, probably.
Okay. And this is something I'm starting to notice. It's a 1 hour runtime. It wasn't being shown on television. It was
an OVA, yeah.
It was an straight to video release, and you can really tell There's a lot of stills, there's a lot of panning shots, and a lot of any action that happens is the same frame repeating, the same 2 or 3 frames repeating over and over.
Dude, that's just anime though.
I feel like I noticed it a lot in this though.
That's really interesting that you'd say that, because keep in mind this was being produced in like 2006 or 2007.
Right, and this was the first one Madhouse did.
Yeah, so maybe it was like 08 or something, because at this point we're in the 4th episode of the
10
series, which spanned like 5-6 years or something.
Right.
So maybe it was around 2008 or so. A lot of anime that was produced in 2008 does not look this good.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you think about stuff that's airing now, like, I mean, Inuyashiki is obviously not a good example because that show looks like crap.
Children of the Whales.
Even Children of the Whales looks really, like, it looks pretty cheap.
Well, I will touch on that, actually, because I had something I wanted to talk about with that.
But think about Mahoutsukai no Yome.
Yeah. Which
that show looks
incredible.
Yeah, it looks great. Especially this week. The backgrounds were, like, really cool.
Yeah, all the forests and everything like that.
Yeah, Hellsing.
I do love Hellsing's setting.
So what I was trying to get to there was, like, modern anime looks great, but that's just because they have the benefit of a lot more experience with digital composition now.
Right.
Technology keeps getting pushed and pushed, every month, every week. So
compositing gets easier.
You rewind. If we watch another show from, let's say, 2008, you're gonna beg to go back to Hellsing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It's it's just not as.
And the stills and all that stuff, they look great.
Yeah,
I love the art style and the setting. Like that sort of gothic kind of Roman and British stuff is really cool to me.
I will say that watching Hellsing, sometimes there is a bit of muddiness to its presentation when there are multiple
layers of people.
Yeah, I was trying to say that more elegantly, but yeah, that's what I mean.
Like they were all drawn the same size, and then they blew up the one that was in the front, and they look kind of.
Maybe that's what causes it.
Because I know what you're talking about. I've noticed that a couple times.
Yeah, it just seems like everything's a little out of focus when there's multiple.
I think that's on purpose. I think that's to give it the effect of depth of field.
Trying to make it cinematic?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't like it then.
No.
I think they ought to just... well, yeah, I don't
That's also another product of age, because as, Photoshop and all those stuff, which is what they use for like the last layering of everything, got better. Its ability to blur things without them looking obviously blurred, to like make it look like a lens actually had it out of focus, got a lot better, and it was able to do it much quicker. But overall, we had, what is it? Who was the girl?
Rip Van Winkle.
Rip Van Winkle. Who I know that name from something.
It's a fairy tale. Okay. Rip Van Winkle is the. Oh, I'm gonna get this wrong. This is gonna be embarrassing. Rip Van Winkle is the guy. He either sleeps for a super long time or he makes people sleep for a super long time. I think Rip Van Winkle is asleep for like a zillion years or something.
So a vampire would make sense then.
In his fairy tale, and then he like wakes up and I don't know, dude.
Either way,
he sleeps for a long time.
I recognize the name. I thought the magic bullet thing coming out of a musket was kind of cool.
Yeah, I was a fan of Rip Van Winkle. I liked her character and her power and stuff.
Yeah.
One thing I did not like. So you already mentioned your least favorite part. Mine was Alucard, like pinning her against the wall of like whatever wall was available on the aircraft carrier.
Right.
And like drinking her blood, like kind of sensually and like kind of. It was gross and like kind of invasive.
That's because he enjoys it. I think that's what they're trying to portray. Is
For sure.
He's like, this is like the greatest feeling.
Yeah, and they were very successful at it, but it made me a little uncomfortable, which is not a bad thing because
I think that was the point.
Yeah, I mean, all anime or a lot of it is just drawings, right? It's like they draw the characters. And they put them on backgrounds, and they're all just images that they put in a sequence, and that they throw some music and some voice acting and stuff. So
it's just throwing music and voice acting.
They have to arrange it really well and sequence it really well for you to feel something. Yeah. Unless you're like just discovering anime and you think that every single fight scene that you see between two barely animated characters is the greatest thing ever. Like if you're a Dragon Ball Z tier shitlord, then you're having an emotional reaction to everything you see.
So you don't like people who like Dragon Ball Super?
People who watch Dragon Ball Super every week and don't watch any other anime, I don't think are very informed. You know,
that's a good point.
They're not partaking with a high degree of information.
That's like if someone from Japan only ever watched Bones, which, for those who are not aware, is a terrible U.S. cop show that I've seen 9 seasons of.
You watched the whole thing, man. How bad could it possibly be?
It's so formulaic. You know who does it by 15 minutes in every single time.
You mean who committed the murder?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a murder mystery.
It is. Well, they saw it's a crime lab, and they deal with with it's massively decomposed bodies, and they use forensic science on the skeleton in order to be able to link the murderer.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was like that much of a whodunit. I thought they just kind of found out who it was and then went and got him.
There's a lot of like whodunit stuff. It usually
it's just like every other cop show.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just with Bones and David Boreanaz, whose new show is tanking.
Okay. Well,
anyways,
forget it. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned him because he is a vampire.
Yeah, he's Buffy. He's Angel.
Right. Angel is a vampire, right?
Yes.
Am I getting that right?
Angel's a vampire.
Putting that aside, though, the point that I was getting towards is like, you're gonna feel something every time you watch anime if you're like just starting. But if you've watched, like a moderate amount of it, you're gonna be looking at it more critically, and you're not gonna every time you watch an episode of anime, a reaction is not guaranteed.
Right.
So that I was so like creeped out and so resistant to what I was watching when he was drinking her blood is a testament to how good the production is, how well the sequence was arranged, how the mood that the soundtrack was able to establish,
which is just all these big dark choirs and like heavy strings, which I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
It works well in the context of the show.
Yeah.
That said, I thought I found it a little creepy.
Okay.
Like it wasn't too much for me. I'll gladly watch another episode, and I'll gladly finish it, I guess, assuming we don't drop it, because we are going to get rid of one of these 6 shows the same way we did with Overlord a few weeks ago.
Okay.
But we gotta move on. I have that timer running to keep us on track. And
yeah. I was about to say, was there anything else that really happened in the episode?
There probably was, but we're gonna skip it.
Okay, fair enough.
So we either do Mahoutsukai no Yome or Children of the Whales now. Man, I hope when I talk this way that my voice isn't too...
No, it's fine.
Okay, Whales or Mage's Pride?
Let's do Whales.
All right. You said there was something you wanted to touch on with regards to this show, so what was that?
They do one of the things that I absolutely hate in cinema and in video games. It's a technique called...
This is neither of those.
Right, but they do it.
Chromatic aberration?
Chromatic aberration.
Dude, please never watch anything that Kyoto Animation has done post, 2012. You and I watched Hibiki Euphonium together. Did you notice any of that in that show?
Not nearly as drastic in this.
Okay.
As in this. I mean, I can see the red and the blue bleeding out of the lions in a couple of the shots when they're trying to draw your focus to something else. It's not working for me because I'm looking at this frame where I want to when it's a still, and I see that red and blue just nasty shit just in all over the left half of the frame because they want me to look at the characters on the right, and it's just disgusting and I hate it. Everyone who does it should be killed.
Whoa. Would you? Okay.
That's why it's an option to toggle in video games.
Okay, but
it's so abrasive.
But would you say that you're kind of spurging out right now?
Yes.
This is all based on your hatred of its use in video games?
My hatred of it goes beyond video games. It goes to any form of media where people think, you know what? This is a black line. Let's put red and blue next to it for no reason.
That seems like a very specific gripe to have with a minor... this is not story or character related.
No. This is entirely art direction.
Yeah. Okay. Well... I don't even remember what you're talking about. I have no doubt that it was in the episode because I know that's a popular.
I'm going to put a zoomed in screenshot during this rant.
Oh, where you're talking
of exactly what I'm talking about, so people can see this ugliness.
We can find it on my copy of the episode if I haven't deleted it.
I'm sure I can find it. I've got it too. So
Okay, what happened in the episode though? There was some new information about the noose, right?
No.
That new, remember the girl,
the
Mira
new girl,
or
yeah, the sister.
Yeah. I gotta look this up because I don't.
There wasn't that much new information because their conversation lasted 30 seconds.
Yeah, but so Neri is the name of the girl, the daughter of the news.
Right,
she was Felena News.
She was reabsorbed to heal the wounds of Felena News.
Right, and her twin sister Emma. Yep. Okay, I just glanced over at my computer. It confirmed her name is Emma.
You were correct. I remember.
And she grows those angel wings or whatever and flies away. And Chakro's like, what? But this show reminds me of Lost. Did you ever watch Lost?
I watched the first season, and it was the slowest TV show ever.
Well, I definitely don't agree with that, but it doles out information at a very measured pace for sure.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it just creates more questions and doesn't answer any previous ones. And that's what the appearance of Emma made me think of. Is like, wow, this is Lost. She just a new.
They're all in purgatory.
There are anime like that where the idea is they're all in purgatory.
They all show up in a church at the end.
No, not that. I don't think.
Sorry, I just spoiled Lost for anybody who hasn't seen it.
I thought you've only seen one season.
Of course I know what the ending is.
Okay, well.
Because it was terrible.
Yeah, I also apologize to everyone watching who hasn't seen Lost. If there are 5 of you listening, then that's probably 4 of you. And I'm sorry. Yeah, her showing up, really, it didn't do anything for me because I was like, oh, okay, so I understand even less now. And it just seems like they did this to shock me or make me, wonder about what's going on. I was already wondering about what's going on. Why don't you
tell me something?
Overall, I would say that I was okay with this episode though. It was, despite the appearance of Emma, I think it was less confusing than a lot of previous ones because it was very simply an episode to bridge the gap between their creation of the plan to hold off the clown people
and
the appearance of the clown people at the very end.
Right.
It was just the whole episode was designed to give us a little information about some of the characters like Oni.
His backstory, how nobody knows who his parents were.
Right, he just showed up one day. I wonder what that's all about.
I don't know. It's possible he's from, because he's mostly emotionless. I think he might be from another Driftland.
Maybe he's the child of a noose from another Driftland.
Possibly, because he's got that really powerful chakra.
Thymia. Yeah, we can just call it chakra.
What's the difference?
There isn't one. It's just a power level thing.
Yep.
Same as every other anime.
And they had, four-year-olds who can't properly form words using bows and arrows.
Yeah, that's right. They were all they all had lisps or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. How cute.
Owo.
Yeah, dude, how cute. Child murderers.
Yep. They can use their thymia to pull back a bow they're not strong enough to, and it can help guide the arrow. And I wish I had that in Overwatch.
I was just going to say, what if we had that power in real life?
I don't think we ever would have started using guns. We would have just used arrows the whole time.
What else? Oh yeah, Lycos apparently has a crush on Chakro now.
Right.
But he's still hung up on Sammy, the girl who died a few episodes ago.
Okay, we'll give it 3 or 4 more episodes and that'll change.
Oh yeah, you think that he'll be in love with her?
Oh yeah,
well,
of course.
I see, I can see why you would assume that, but anime actually, in romance and anime, there's a big focus on someone winning and someone losing. Like when, let's say there's a love triangle between 2 men and a woman. Actually, that doesn't make sense because anime is all about selling power fantasies to young men. So 2 women and a man.
Okay.
One girl will win, and I'm making finger quotes right now, and one girl will lose. And that's how anime does romance, by and large. And even in dialogue, girls will say, I can't believe I lost to you. Or whatever. Like, it's yeah, it kind of makes me want to barf. Not because I want to be progressive about social issues or whatever, but but because it's just so clumsy. It's just such
drivel.
Yeah, pretty much. And I will acknowledge that maybe the reason that it's translated that way is because there's not a good equivalent for what Japanese people are actually expressing. But I do get the sense that there is like a really competition-minded, I guess, culture when you're talking about romance in anime, anyway.
Okay.
And
you think that?
So I think that it's possible that Lycos will like lose. The idea is she can't win by getting Chakra to love her.
Then who won?
Sammy, I guess.
So the dead person wins.
I mean, it's possible.
My
wouldn't be
theory
surprised.
is that Chakra is the loser, and Lycos will be the winner.
How could he be the loser?
He lost the girl he wanted.
No, that's not what I'm talking about when I say lose.
I know what you're talking about. The competition, like, you love this person, I want this person, raw, fight to the death. Oh, no, I get him, you get him, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the desired party in this triangle, I guess. So it's not up to him to win or lose. It's up to the girls.
Okay.
In this really retarded form of...
I finally have emotions. This dude is so hot.
Of course they'd go there, man. I mean, they're all teenagers, right? So
yeah, they're supposed to be like 13 or 14.
And
so that does kind of make sense.
Anime's aimed at teenagers, too.
Yeah. Aimed at people with no money. Great business model.
So at the end, there's a plan. Well, they find ways to buy it, man.
Yeah.
There's a plan to infiltrate the enemy Skylos or Skylos or whatever.
Right.
That's
and
their
kill
ship.
it, which will sink the
the enemy ship. Whatever.
Right.
But
we knew about that last episode.
Right. But we actually see the party get put together, and we meet like the guy who's heading up the operation.
Right.
And then they're all set to go off and find the ship or whatever.
And Oni's friend is like, I'm coming with you.
Yeah, and then the ship just appears, and that's the end of the episode.
Right, because they're in the middle of a sandstorm, so they can't see anything. They have no visibility.
Yep.
And then they had that festival of sand where everyone just throws sand over each other. And
yeah. Regardless of class or status or whatever. Wow, that's great. Wouldn't someone go blind?
Doesn't that mean they're in a class society?
Well, they are, yeah. I mean, they obviously are. There's the elders who are like withholding information and acting as the elite class.
Okay, well, we have a government and they withhold information from us. What's the difference?
Yeah. We also live in a classist society. I mean, people don't think we do, but...
I mean,
we do, man.
We don't have, like...
The government is keeping us down. Oh, I can see the little... I'm talking too loud. I can see the little red thing there on the screen.
No, what I mean by that is we don't have, like, a peasant class or whatever that are just, like, the underlings that are just slaves to people.
We may not have that in the United States, at least not, like, very evidently, but that still exists all over the world.
Well, yeah, it does.
And there are people in poverty here in the U.S. that will,
We'll babysit for food. Psych.
They'll never escape that poverty, and their children's children won't either, because they can't get out.
Right.
But that's a whole
100
level college course that you can spend thousands of dollars to take at your local community college. All right, we got 2 left at this point, and that would be... We should do Space Dandy, I guess. Now.
Okay. He's a dandy guy in space.
Dude, episode 4 is the best episode. I love it.
You love episode 4.
Hell yeah, dude.
I think it's definitely interesting.
That's the zombie one.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
But what I love so much about it...
Can we talk about episode 3?
Yeah, let's do episode 3.
Let's kind of go in order here.
Episode 3 is crap.
Episode 3 is crap?
I don't like it. It's one of my least favorites.
Really?
Yeah. My least favorite is coming up.
Okay.
But this is one that I don't like so much.
All right.
They go to a planet. There's a girl there. They fall in love with her. It turns out she's a monster.
Yep.
They have to destroy her.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way they do it is kind of funny because they use that expired food.
Right.
But I don't know. Like, what would you say that you got out of episode 3? What was the main thing that stuck out to you, or what interested you most?
The one thing that we got from episode 3 is Wulongs are currency. So it's the same universe as Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, I'm looking real hard for Bebop references in Dandy this time through, since this is the second time I'm watching it.
And that's the biggest key in, is it's the same currency, because that's kind of...
Yeah, but I'm looking for like smaller, less significant, but somehow more indicative of a link.
Right.
I'm looking for those kind of references, and I don't think I've found any yet.
Okay. 900,000 Wulongs, baby.
It was 90,000, wasn't it?
900. Because remember, it's equivalent to the yen,
Yeah.
so that's not much.
Oh, I thought all they got was 90,000 though,
No,
and they were still like rejoicing.
No, it was
that.
900,000.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But assuming that the episodes are, chronological.
Which they're not, because they die in half of them.
Yeah, they die in half of them. But assuming like there's a link between episode 3 and 4, since they don't die at the end of 3,
Right.
they turn into zombies at the end of 4. So you don't need money anymore, because you live in a post, the only resource that anyone needs is yogurt. So it's like a post-scarcity world. As long as yogurt is being produced and being distributed to people, you don't need money.
Yogurt and meat.
No, but we're already talking about episode 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll gloss over episode 3 really, because
So what else did you like about it? Yeah, Wulong's Bebop. What about the meat of the episode? Like,
I remember episode 4 so well.
Yeah,
and I
it's
just
awesome.
watched them. But episode 3, I'm struggling to remember anything until you had even mentioned something. I was just like, what happened in episode 3? Like, I know
great.
I watched it.
oh, there's a hot girl, but she was a monster all along.
Yep.
Like, what? How many times has that been done?
I haven't watched as many anime as you, so
No, I'm not talking about just anime. There was a hot girl, but she was a monster all along. How many times have you seen that? In like a zombie movie or something, or I don't know, a vampire story, or
Yeah, I guess a couple of times.
or the whole
Joss
idea.
Whedon does that.
The whole idea of like a femme fatale,
Yeah.
like a really attractive woman who it turns out, oh, she's a killing machine, or she's a badass with knife skills, or
Right.
just whatever. That's been done to death, and I don't think they did anything particularly interesting with it. Although the transformation into that boob monster
Right.
was horrifying.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And then they capture it and put it in a tiny jar.
Right.
Somehow.
Well, it shrinks because it like because they feed it that gross food.
Right.
And it vomits so spectacularly that it becomes smaller. Like,
Buy one, get 365 free.
that's a really good scheme to empty out your warehouse.
Yeah.
To like foist your product off of someone. I'm surprised I've never heard of that in real life.
Yeah.
But episode 4 is one of my favorite episodes of D&D. I'm really excited once we get to the second season, if we choose to watch the second season.
Right.
Because that's where I think the really weird experimental shit is.
Right.
And that stuff I remember less clearly somehow. So I am excited to get back to it. But this episode's great in its own right. The first half is just a normal zombie tale.
Right.
With a dandy spin on it.
You've got it's like, this might be a completely new species because it's the wrong color and it's aggressive.
Right.
Then meow. Meow, why don't you punch in our coordinates? Meow?
You really like doing the dandy voice.
It's not hard. I've been watching it in English, by the way. I don't know if you have.
I did for these 2 episodes, and I plan to going forward. Although there was something I wanted to talk about in comparing, because for part of it, for like specific lines that stuck out to me in the English dub, I turned on the subs to see what the
disconnect was.
What they were saying and what the translation was, what the localization was rather, because they're not translating, not perfectly. Yeah, they're like embellishing. So here are a couple examples I found.
Okay.
When one character wants to say, yes, this is very serious. I think this is when Dr. Gel and his little bean assistant man are looking up the alien. One of them means to say, oh yeah, this is really serious. This is a really deadly alien. Instead, that's what they say in Japanese. It's really serious. What they say in English is, it's as serious as moon dust in your underpants. So that was interesting to me, and I'm not that is not a turnoff for me. Like, because especially in instances like that, because it contributes to the language of the world of Space Dandy. Like, it's, you know, it's related to space or whatever,
right? So
that you could imagine that being, you know, like a common phrase in their time period, in their era, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was cool with that, but there are other parts where, I mean, it's just a hit and miss thing, right?
Sure.
Like, sometimes the localization is good, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it sucks. Sometimes you feel awkward listening to it. But I mean, so far I would say that the dub's pretty good. Yeah.
Cool beans.
But the what I love about episode 4, dude, I have to talk about it.
Okay.
The first half is a traditional zombie
scenario.
Thing. Yeah.
One person gets bitten,
gets infected,
by whole planet. Yep.
Yeah. But then they flip it around in the second half,
where the narrator takes over for the entire thing.
Yeah, the narrator takes over because no one can speak, really. Yeah. But except they can, and you find out zombies do have their own language. And in fact, they have their own economy, their own... everyone in the universe, in the galaxy, whatever's the biggest thing, whatever's the biggest classification of space, everyone becomes a zombie.
Not everyone.
Who isn't a zombie?
The leader of the Gogol Empire.
No, he becomes a zombie.
The skeleton dude?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
No, he's not, because he yells at the other guy who's just...
But doesn't the narrator mention that everyone in the world, in the universe, becomes a zombie?
We don't know what he is, though. Because he's a floating skeleton with planets revolving around him.
Okay, I hadn't considered the fact that the head of the Gogol Empire was...
Because when he gets angry, their ship blows up.
Right.
So he may be some other being.
Maybe he's like Hero from Inuyashiki, dude. He can just kill people
from any distance.
At will.
Except it's not bong, it's blow up spaceship.
Right. I just love I love how existential the episode gets. Like, when they realize, oh, we're dead, but what... I wish I were actually dead. What is there to live for? And
right.
They just go between despair and raw meat. But then they consult the alien,
the zombie guru.
Yeah.
They're zombie guru.
Right, and the Japanese term would be senpai.
Right.
Which they actually say in the Japanese audio track. But they talk to him, and he's like, "Oh no, just eat yogurt." And because of the lactic acid, bacteria, whatever,
right,
they feel as though they're fermenting rather than rotting. And then everyone becomes a zombie. They all just eat yogurt. And then the insurance corporation, they start cashing in on their life insurance policies. So the insurance corporations hire assassins to kill them. That's such an interesting commentary to me on, like, corporate greed.
And it's not illegal to kill them because they're already dead.
Yeah, like, just imagine how many loopholes insurance corporations and like big pharmaceutical corporations or whatever, imagine how they try to exploit those kind of loopholes in real life. So this episode was directly commenting on that idea.
Yeah.
So I thought that was I think that's great. And then, remember when they interview the man and the woman? It was the nurse and the alien or whatever.
Right.
And they say, "So what do you do during your downtime? What do you do for fun?" And one of them says, "We have the inexplicable urge to go to the mall."
Yeah.
That, to me, that line is meant to mock people who go to the mall all the time as being like brainless, mindless consumers, like zombies.
Right.
So all that stuff, the way that society evolves and the show's particular take on all these issues is really, to me, it's like one home run after another. That last half of this episode.
It holds your attention incredibly well because it's
really imaginative.
Yeah, and it's something it's something you don't come across.
Right. It's new. It's like, despite your familiarity with the zombie genre or whatever, no matter how familiar or new you are, familiar to or new, whatever.
Right.
Whether you've seen a lot of stuff or you haven't, when it comes to zombie flicks, you can appreciate what Space Dandy's doing because it's telling its own kind of story. And it's doing it in like 11 minutes. That being the latter half, the back half of the episode.
Yeah,
I think it's great. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's good.
Sure. Any other thoughts? Everyone becomes a zombie, and that's the end.
I remember earlier in last episode, you had mentioned something about how like the art director and stuff changes.
The episode directors Watanabe just oversees the entire production.
Because the animation style, or like there are a couple scenes in that episode that it looks drastically different than the other episodes.
Yeah.
It looks kind of experimental.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that is down to the lack of in-between frames in episode 4. A lot of the action just like looked like there was a big emphasis on, or not even a big emphasis on the key poses, but there just wasn't a lot of the motion that connected them.
I thought it looked really fluid, but it was just like not sharply drawn. It was, more outliney.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't really think of a good way to phrase it, but I do think that effect was exacerbated by a lack of in-between animation. And the way, the kind of art style they used kind of masked that.
Yeah.
Because that stuck out to me. There were some parts where it was a little hitchy.
I didn't think it looked bad.
I agree. I don't think it looked bad either. I think they did a good job of smoothing it over using a particular design.
Right.
So are you seeing a difference between, like, from one episode to another?
A little bit, yeah, especially when it comes down to quicker scenes.
Okay.
When it comes down to anything that involves a lot of motion, that's where you can really tell.
Right. So far, nothing. I don't think anything has been as fluid as the martial arts sequence in the second episode, where Scarlet is beating up the aliens that have come for Dandy and Co.
I don't know. I thought the first episode.
Yeah, that's really slick.
With that giant fight scene and the walls breaking away and the earthquake happening, that looked fantastic.
Yeah, it did.
It was super clear and it had a ton of frames in it.
Lots of frames, man. Every image is so dense. There's so much going on.
There was so much going on, though, but you could clearly see all of it.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good show.
Good show. Yep.
Good show. Good
stuff.
Moving on to our last show, which is
Mahoutsukai no Yome.
Yeah, another good show, but I don't think this it hasn't matched my episode 3 hype.
Yeah.
So what went on in this 6th episode of Ancient Mage's Bride?
There was a brief dialogue that occurred essentially during the end of the 5th episode between
Elias and Scarface
guy. Scarface dude, who's missing an arm now apparently.
He always was.
He said the last time he saw it, he wasn't missing it.
What?
Elias said, the last time I saw you, you weren't missing an arm.
Yeah, but what I meant was that in the previous episode of Mahoutsukai no Yome...
Yeah, he was missing an arm then.
But we know who took his arm off, I think. Because after he leaves...
It's the same person that created the
swirling vortex of terror.
Yeah, the
curse.
The black goop.
Yeah, it was the same sorcerer from like hundreds of years ago.
Right.
Because that flashback with the man and the woman and the cat murder and all that
was from a long time ago.
That was from centuries ago, yeah. So that sorcerer is still... I wonder if he's like the big bad of the whole series, or if he's just the antagonist of, let's say, half the, like, a 13-episode arc or something.
Don't know.
I guess we'll find out, because I haven't read the manga for this.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was that little bit.
That little exchange.
Right.
Then what? They talk about, like, the concept of ownership and, like, what are your purpose for him. You find out that she's got 3 years left to live,
right?
Essentially, but his whole purpose of having her was to see if he could fix that. And because she's like an unlimited source of magical energy. Right.
I mean, that's the reason he was interested in the first place, but he does have a plan to keep her alive. That hasn't been detailed for us, but she seems to trust him at this point.
Right.
And I think she came to trust him pretty quickly. I would have liked to see her, like, reserve judgment for a little longer. Yeah. But
because she's been, cast out by so many people for so long.
Yeah. You think and she's suicidal and stuff.
You think she'd be more reserved in her judgment of people rather than really really quick to trust.
Right. Is this going to make a sound?
I have no idea.
Okay, I guess we'll find out. Yeah, so he also, the Scarface guy, the sorcerer, is that what they're called, sorcerers? I think that's right.
Yes, the sorcerers.
He also mentions that Elias isn't human.
Right. He's neither half human nor half anything else. He's some weird combination of stuff.
Yeah. Well, his exact words, and this is the English translation in the subs, are, "You can neither become human nor return to being a fairy." But apparently we learn from the dialogue later with the what's her name, the Queen of the Fairies.
Right. Her servant, the rock dude.
Right. We learned that he wasn't a fairy. He's something else entirely. Right.
He's like, you should not step on our ground, no matter whether you have an invitation or not. It does make a noise.
It does make a noise. We just set like a Google thing. How do I? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Google.
Okay, Google.
Where were we? We were talking about the fact that he's not human and he's not a fairy.
Right.
He's something. She calls him Thorn. She just refers to him as Thorn.
Right.
So maybe that's his real name.
He's the Thorn Mage.
Right. That's how other people refer to him, but maybe his actual name is Thorn.
Maybe he was created by a sorcerer.
Or
as an experiment.
No,
he's like a fusion of like a human and a fairy or something.
No, he came from. He was with the Fairy Queen.
Right.
He came from the land of the fairies, but he's not a fairy. Or something.
He probably did some experiment on himself. And
what? I don't know, man.
Because
a little far-fetched.
It's like if you can't become human and you can't return to being a fairy, that leads me to believe that he's a mixture of the two.
Oh, maybe he did experiment on himself, and that's why he's got a weird skull head, because he had to replace his own head. Because he tried to transmute his own head, and he broke the law of equivalent exchange.
He's also tall.
It's true, he is tall.
He's very tall.
So I think the big reveal, I guess, from this episode is that he's a fairy-ish thing. We don't know exactly what he is. But he came from, or he was raised by, the Queen of the Fairies, who we meet.
Right.
And her husband.
Oberon.
Yes, Oberon. And her name is Titania.
Yeah.
So Titania, I guess, is how you would say it.
Or maybe it just means tits.
English. Yeah, I was...
Boob physics.
I thought the same thing, dude. But yeah, she's got big breasts. But it makes sense because as the Queen of the Fairies or whatever, with her, she's got a very nature theme or aura or whatever.
Sure.
Like wherever she steps, flowers grow is the sense that you kind of get from her. So she would be like really fertile. You know what I mean? Like that would be the idea. So it kind of makes sense that she would be kind of revealed like that, and that she would be very well endowed. Because she's supposed to represent, you know how like the god of fertility or whatever?
Right, Aphrodite.
No, I don't think Aphrodite's the goddess of fertility, is she? That's the goddess of fertility is the one who Hades traps in the underworld. What's her name? Shoot.
No, Persephone.
Yeah, is she the goddess of fertility?
She's also the guardian. She's also the goddess of like
one of the seasons.
Yeah, spring.
Yeah, she might be fertility.
I don't know. It's really, it depends on which interpretation of ancient Greek.
Yeah, which myth you're reading,
right?
Looking at or whatever.
Either way,
it makes sense I think it makes sense for her character that she would appear that way and dress that way.
Sure, that does make sense. I didn't think about it like that. I was just thinking, oh, it's an anime.
Yeah, well, honestly, there's a little bit of that in there too. You get that really gratuitous close up of her boobs
and just swaying.
Right, but I wasn't that bothered by it because it occurred to me immediately. Like she's the Queen of the Fairies, whatever. She represents fertility.
Thought never once crossed my mind.
Well, I guess you were just too mesmerized.
I suppose.
Yeah. All right.
Anyways, didn't focus on that long enough.
Chise will die in about 3 years.
She was asleep for 2 weeks.
Yeah, she does sleep for 2 weeks, and then Oberon wakes her up.
She's just like, magic.
Right.
Cleared.
So you get the set. Hello?
She wakes up.
Right.
Waking up from a clear and a
defibrillator.
Anyways.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You get the sense from that scene that Titania and Oberon are like way more powerful than Thorn. Or
well,
than
she
Elias.
like pushes the guy with one finger, and he's teleported and will apparently aimlessly wander until a certain period of time, and at that exact point, walk out of the forest.
Right. You're talking about the priest.
Yeah.
Whose name is Simon or something.
Simon.
Is that right? Yeah. You do get the sense that they're much more powerful than anyone that we've encountered so far, because they're essentially, like gods or goddesses or whatever.
Right.
She even has that little line of dialogue where the reason that she pushes him away like that she banishes him, is that he doesn't acknowledge, he worships some other god,
right,
or something. So he worships the Judeo-Christian god, as opposed to, let's say, the god of fairies or the queen of fairies or what have you.
Sure.
So, where else was I? Oh, I guess the main thing that stuck out to me in this episode was I appreciate the idea that we're getting glimpses of conversations between characters without getting an entire episode devoted to their backstory and hearing for 5 minutes about they have such and such a power level and all that.
Right.
And just the constant flashbacks of things that we had seen last episode or even 5 minutes ago. We're getting, natural conversations between people who have existing pasts.
Right.
And we're just along for the ride.
Yeah, I've been continuing to watch Overlord, and there's a lot of that power level stuff when you meet new characters, and it's
just shit writing, honestly.
I think it's literally just to fill time. Because it's always during a panning shot of 2 or 3 frames of a character talking, and they're just explaining what level magic they can do and stuff like that.
Well, Overlord in particular is a video game.
Right, so it has literal power levels.
Yeah, it makes sense in that regard, but at the same time, you're watching TV. It's a piece of entertainment. It doesn't need to be a video game.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I just like that about Mahoutsukai no Yome. I like that, the dialogue is free-flowing and, it feels pretty authentic to me.
Rather than seeming like it's completely forced.
Well, I don't like to use the word forced because that's another one of my pet peeve things, same as nothing happened in this episode. When people say that stuff is forced or that something is rushed, that's that's day one.
You said
criticism.
the first 2 episodes of Children of the Whales were rushed.
I probably did.
Yeah,
but they were.
So you're exempt from your own rule.
Hey man, don't expose me like that.
Hail Whooper.
Thanks. Oh, we forgot to introduce ourselves. We usually say who we are.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We can skip that.
That's fine.
I think the people, our dedicated audience, knows exactly who we are.
Dedicated audience of half a person.
Thank you all so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to donate to our Patreon.
You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
What else about Children of the Whales? Or Mahoutsukai?
Nothing too much happens.
There was something big.
Christmas pudding.
What? Yeah, that's what they eat at the end.
They had Christmas pudding.
What is the maid's name? It's Silver.
Yeah.
Right? Or something like that. Do you know there's an OVA? There's a 3-episode OVA for this show that came out before the TV show?
Really?
Yeah. It has some character I haven't seen it. It has some character details in it, apparently, a little bit of backstory. And it's not based on manga material. So the show presents itself in the same order as the manga.
Okay.
So the OVA is extra stuff. I'm probably not going to watch it because I've already started watching the TV show. I'll watch the OVA afterwards.
Sure.
But
sounds like a good idea.
I don't know why I brought that up. Oh,
because of Silver.
I think Silver is her backstory might be in the OVA. There was one other detail in these episodes. Their attendant, that little rock guy who you mentioned, who attends to Oberon and Titania.
Right.
He makes reference to all the people and all the spirits who were lost because of Thorn, because of Elias.
And then,
so he did something awful.
And then Titania makes a mention, either Titania or Oberon make a mention of that being what humans do during their Great War.
Okay. So based on that reference, are we supposed to assume that he is half human? or that he's part human, or
I'm not
that
certain.
he acts like a human and that's why he was kicked out? Or
I think maybe that that she sees him differently, and other people now from what he is as opposed to what he was then see him in a different light. It's because, oh, now that you're part human, you're just one of them. You're one of those terrible people that all they do is fight and kill each other.
Okay. She seems to be on semi-friendly terms with him still. Like, she invites him to come to the land of the fairies, doesn't she?
Yeah, even though he's like, I'd never go, and people are like, you should never come.
Right. Well, he says to her, if you invite me, I'll go, as long as you don't try to trap me there forever, or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, our timer's run out, so I don't know how much time we've got. So let's go ahead and skip to the ranking. We're gonna rank the shows again.
Yeah. I got mine right here.
I got mine too. I'm not totally happy with the way I ranked them this time.
I'm not, now that we've talked about it, but I think that's better that I wrote this before we talked about it.
Okay.
So I think it's more honest that way.
All right, last place.
Hellsing.
Okay. I put Children of the Whales.
Okay.
Fifth,
Mahoutsukai no Yome.
Hellsing.
Okay. Fourth,
Inuyashiki.
Inuyashiki.
Okay. I kind of felt like Inuyashiki deserved worse. I would probably swap them and put Hellsing at fourth, but that seems like cheating.
Yeah. Well, I put Hellsing last. So, anyways, third place,
Yome.
Children of the Whales.
Okay, so you're back on the whale train.
I thought I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like we're pretty conflicted this week.
Yeah.
I put Ava second and Dandy first.
Dandy second, Ava first.
Okay, at least we're on the same page when it comes to... Dude, you put Mahoutsukai no Yome fifth this time?
Yep.
Damn, why?
I tried to rank them not based on how good I thought they were, but how much I enjoyed them.
Okay.
And I think I enjoyed Hellsing the least.
Just because of his
I felt like
monologue?
I felt like the episode was an hour long and it just dragged.
Yeah, I got a little bit of that.
Like there were a couple really cool set pieces and some cool fight scenes, but a lot of it was just, it felt like it was dragging.
Yeah, it's long, man. Maybe you should try watching it as like 2 30-minute episodes. Like watch half of it, take a break, get some food or something.
Yeah.
Come back and watch the other half.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I've watched hour-long dramas, from Western television before.
Well, not really, right? Because you're probably watching 41-minute and 42-second. That's what they are.
Game of Thrones is an hour long.
That's true, yeah.
But Game of Thrones is
hard to compare Game of Thrones to Hellsing, though.
Yeah.
So what are we going to take away from these rankings? We want to get rid of one show and replace it with, I think what we've decided is Girls Last Tour.
Right.
So it should probably be one of the 3 seasonal ones that we get rid of, or are you fine with dropping Hellsing, assuming that's the one we pick?
Assuming that's the one we pick, it's fine if we drop it. Like I said before, I'm probably going to keep watching it anyways, even if we drop it, because I'm sure that there's a bunch of other cool, awesome stuff. As well as...
I'm sure there is cool, awesome stuff too, man. I love cool, awesome stuff.
As the show goes on, it gets newer.
Yeah, it's going to... I mean, probably...
It was produced in a newer time.
It'll start to look better and better, maybe.
That's it.
It's also going to switch studios again once.
Yep, in episode 8.
All right. We should probably wrap this episode up.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement that Ava and Dandy are pretty cool. I'm glad that you put Ava first, even though I don't agree. I think Dandy episode 4 is so strong that it just blows everything else out of the water from this episode of the podcast.
Okay.
But I'm glad that you're enjoying Ava, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people come to Ava hearing about its reputation as like one of the best anime ever, one of the most significant TV anime ever, maybe the most.
I think the reason that is people go into the show with their expectation for it being important, not knowing why it's important. They think it's important because it was like groundbreaking in its animation or its fight scenes or something.
I think there are a lot of really impressive pieces of animation in the show.
There are, absolutely. But I think people are coming in just for that, and there's so much...
Well, they want an action show.
Yeah, and there's so much, especially because it's Gainax. And if they've seen, if their first exposure to Gainax is something some of their more recent stuff. That's just like this absolute off the wall, completely insane stuff that they've done. And then they go back to this, which is a lot more grounded.
Recent Gainax hasn't been that nutty. Gainax is like gasping its last. It's taking its dying breath right now as a studio, I think.
Didn't Gainax do throwing universes at each other?
Yes, they did.
Believe
that was
in
like
you that believes in me.
That was like the last big project. Okay, so I see what you're saying. When you say more recent, Gurren Lagann is. Yeah. Gurren Lagann's 10 years old right now.
Right, but it's not, almost 20 years old.
Right. So okay, I get what you're saying. You're thinking people know about Gurren Lagann and that's what they think of when they hear Gainax.
Right.
But there's, and Fooly Cooly as well is really nutty.
And this one's much more. It's a huge. It's half slice of life almost.
Okay.
Just because of how much it you puts emphasis on the relationship of the characters.
Yeah, and Shinji goes to school and all that.
I mean, he's at school for maybe, I don't know, 15 frames of each episode.
You're underestimating how many frames go into just like a 5-second animation of somebody turning their head.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. A short amount of time.
Yeah, it's different from newer Gainax, I guess. There's plenty of actiony old Gainax too, but yeah. What I'm getting at is that I like that you like it because a lot of people are turned off by just the show. I don't know how wimpy Shinji is. How
I think talking about it helps actually.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. All right. We'll figure out which show we want to let go of. We don't need to keep rambling on to do that. So y'all
tune in next week to find out.
Yeah. Y'all will see what we drop and what we pick up. It's going to be Girls' Last Tour. Spoiler alert.
All right.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week, or maybe sooner if this video gets uploaded real quick.
Yeah.
That's up to Grenchly, though.
Yeah, it is up to me.
All right.
See you in space.